Dear friends, have you ever found yourself loving some avoidants who never seem to fully love you back? They appear calm, independent, and emotionally distant, yet you are drawn to them. This isn't random, there's a psychological reason behind it. Your attachment system, past experiences, and their subtle behaviors all combine to create a pull that feels almost impossible to resist. Even when logic tells you to step back, your heart seems to stay invested. It's not that they are purposely trying to hurt you, or that you are doing something wrong. Some avoidants simply operate differently in relationships. Their emotional structure, the way they process closeness and connection, creates a pattern that can feel confusing if you aren't aware of it. You may notice moments of warmth, followed by distance, and it can leave you feeling stuck or unsure. Your attraction to them is natural. You might find yourself explaining their behavior, hoping for change, or trying to be the one exception in their emotional world. This happens because your brain picks up on subtle cues, small gestures, hints of care, or glimpses of vulnerability that your mind interprets as potential connection. Those moments trigger emotional investment, even when their overall engagement doesn't match your depth of feeling. Understanding why you are drawn to some avoidance can help you see the pattern clearly. It can protect your heart, help you make conscious choices, and allow you to relate to them more effectively without losing yourself. By recognizing these patterns, you can navigate these relationships with awareness, empathy, and balance. Let's explore why this happens and how it affects you today in this video. Reason 1. Some avoidants create intrigue through their independence. Their calm demeanor, self-sufficiency, and emotional distance naturally draw attention. You may notice that they don't cling, they don't overshare, and they seem to move at their own pace. This independence makes them appear mysterious and interesting, and your mind starts to wonder what it would take to reach them fully. You are naturally curious because people who are fully open and available from the start rarely trigger this kind of fascination. Their subtle unpredictability, small shifts in mood, moments of closeness followed by distance, keeps you engaged. Each interaction feels like a puzzle to solve, and your brain becomes invested in decoding their behavior. You start paying closer attention to their words, gestures, and reactions. Every small sign of interest feels significant, and this magnifies the emotional pull you feel. You may find yourself hoping to be the exception, the one avoidant who will truly open up. This hope drives a lot of your emotional investment. It's not that they are openly rejecting you every moment, it's the pattern of availability and withdrawal that keeps you emotionally alert. You invest your energy, time, and attention, sometimes without even realizing it. This dynamic feels compelling because it activates your attachment system. Your brain interprets moments of closeness as rewards and distance as challenges to overcome. Importantly, this isn't necessarily about love yet. The emotional connection isn't fully reciprocal. What you are responding to is the combination of autonomy, calmness, and unpredictability. Your fascination grows because you are drawn to the potential of intimacy that seems just within reach. Every interaction reinforces the desire to engage, understand, and connect more deeply. Recognizing this pattern helps you understand why you feel pulled towards some avoidance, even when they don't fully commit emotionally. Awareness allows you to notice the difference between genuine reciprocal love and the intrigue caused by independence. By observing without judgment, you can manage your emotional investment more consciously, reducing the risk of being caught in unbalanced attachment. Over time, you may see that this pattern is consistent. Some avoidants naturally maintain distance, while appearing available enough to keep you engaged. Their independence is not meant to hurt you, it's part of how they navigate relationships. Understanding this is key to protecting your heart and approaching the connection with clarity and insight. By seeing the psychological pull of independence clearly, you can remain aware of your own emotional patterns. This helps you decide how much energy to invest and how to relate to them in a balanced, healthy way. The intrigue they create can be fascinating, but it's important to maintain perspective about your needs and emotional boundaries. Reason 2. You often project your ideals onto some avoidants. When you meet someone who is emotionally reserved, independent, and calm, your mind naturally starts imagining what they could be if they fully opened up. You picture the partner you wish they were: attentive, emotionally available, deeply affectionate, and fully invested in you. Your imagination begins filling in the gaps in their behavior with possibilities, hopes, and expectations. This projection is not intentional manipulation, it's a natural way your brain tries to make sense of the unpredictability in their responses. Even when they don't fully reciprocate your feelings or gestures, your mind fills in the missing pieces. You remember the moments when they were warm, attentive, or affectionate, and your brain exaggerates their significance. These glimpses become evidence that your hope is justified, even if the broader pattern shows distance or avoidance. Your focus shifts from what is actually happening to what could happen, and that keeps you emotionally engaged and invested. This pattern can make you deeply committed, even when logic signals caution. You know on some level that they are not fully matching your emotional investment, but your brain keeps prioritizing the potential connection over the current reality. Every small sign of interest is amplified. A text, a smile, or a casual gesture becomes a reason to continue investing your time and energy. Your hope reinforces the emotional pull, making it difficult to step back or see the relationship objectively. The more you idealize them, the more your attachment system is activated. You are responding to both their occasional warmth and your own imagined version of them. Your feelings intensify because your brain interprets every small sign of attention as a reward. Each moment of distance, however, triggers a subtle urge to reconnect, creating a push-pull dynamic that keeps you emotionally involved. It's important to understand that this projection is common when dealing with some avoidants. Their natural reserve and emotional control leave space for your imagination to fill in the missing elements. This is why you may feel a strong attachment even when the emotional exchange is not fully reciprocal. Awareness of this pattern helps you distinguish between what is real and what is projected. Recognizing this dynamic allows you to maintain perspective. You can acknowledge your attraction and hope without letting it override your sense of reality. By observing when you are projecting, you can make conscious choices about your emotional investment, set boundaries, and protect your own heart. Over time, understanding this helps you interact with some avoidants more consciously. You can appreciate their moments of connection without over-investing in what might never be fully returned. This awareness strengthens emotional clarity, reduces frustration, and allows you to approach the relationship with balance, insight, and self-protection. Reason 3. Some avoidants feel familiar because they match patterns from your past. When you interact with an avoidant, their emotional push and pull, subtle distance, or unpredictable behaviors may trigger memories and feelings that you experienced earlier in life. These patterns could echo experiences with caregivers, siblings, or early friendships where love and attention were inconsistent and emotional connection was conditional. Your attachment system recognizes this familiar rhythm and responds automatically, even if your conscious mind knows the dynamic is unhealthy or unfulfilling. This familiarity is powerful because it bypasses rational thinking. You might notice that despite the distance or lack of reciprocity, you feel drawn to them repeatedly. The brain interprets patterns it recognizes as safe, even if the outcomes are uncomfortable. When an avoidant withdraws or seems distant, your attachment system subtly triggers the same responses it did in the past: curiosity, care, and a drive to reconnect. You find yourself willing to tolerate moments of emotional unavailability because it feels familiar and paradoxically comforting. Even small gestures from some avoidants, like checking in occasionally, sharing a thought, or offering brief warmth, can feel deeply meaningful because your brain links them to early experiences of rare but highly valued connection. This selective attention reinforces your emotional investment. You start interpreting minimal signs of attention as confirmation that the connection is real and that your effort to engage is worthwhile. Familiarity also makes it difficult to see the relationship objectively. You may rationalize their distance or unpredictability, attributing it to circumstances rather than recognizing a pattern. You might excuse inconsistencies, telling yourself that this is just how they are, or that your understanding and patience will eventually bring them closer. This is your attachment system at work, responding automatically to cues it perceives as reminiscent of earlier relational templates. Because of this, you can feel emotionally tied to an avoidant, even when the relationship doesn't provide the stability or fulfillment you desire. The familiarity of the push and pull keeps you engaged. Your brain and heart are reacting not just to what they are giving in the present, but to a deeply ingrained sense of what connection looks like based on your past experiences. Awareness of this dynamic is crucial. Understanding that your attraction may be amplified by familiarity allows you to step back and evaluate the relationship with clarity. you can distinguish between patterns you are drawn to because they feel familiar and patterns that are genuinely supportive and nurturing. Recognizing this helps you respond thoughtfully rather than automatically, giving you the choice to maintain boundaries, protect your emotional well-being, and invest in connection consciously rather than reflexively. By noticing how some avoidants trigger past relational patterns, you gain insight into why you feel pulled toward them repeatedly. This awareness is key to breaking cycles of unreciprocated emotional investment while still engaging with relationships in a healthy, mindful way. Reason 4. The chase itself creates emotional highs. When some avoidants withdraw slightly, whether by distancing themselves emotionally, taking longer to respond, or appearing less available, it triggers a strong psychological reaction in you. Your brain interprets the withdrawal as a challenge, and when the avoidant returns attention, even briefly, it activates the reward system. Dopamine is released, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure, motivation, and desire. This release makes the moments of attention feel intense and highly rewarding, almost addictive. You start noticing these small gestures far more than you would in a stable or predictable interaction because they are amplified by contrast. Even minimal acknowledgement, like a short message, a quick compliment or a fleeting smile, can produce a sense of elation. This intermittent reinforcement keeps you engaged because your mind begins to anticipate the next positive signal. It's the same principle that underlies behavioral conditioning. Unpredictable rewards create stronger attachment than consistent predictable outcomes. You unconsciously become invested in trying to earn or maintain these rare rewarding interactions. This dynamic explains why you might continue to put in effort, hope for connection, or rationalize the avoidant's lack of full reciprocity. The brain is wired to notice and seek the rewarding experiences, even if the overall relationship lacks stability or consistency. Emotional highs become more memorable and impactful than the lows, which can make withdrawal periods feel temporary rather than problematic. You may feel compelled to stay engaged, to try harder, and to invest more energy, thinking that eventually their affection will match the intensity of your effort. The addictive nature of these peaks also creates a cycle of emotional dependence. Your body and mind respond strongly to intermittent attention, and your attachment system becomes conditioned to tolerate emotional distance in anticipation of future rewards. This pattern explains why even rationally you know that the avoidant is not fully emotionally available, yet you continue to engage and invest in the connection. Recognizing this dynamic is essential. Understanding that your emotional highs are triggered by intermittent attention rather than consistent care or mutual affection helps you gain clarity about the relationship. It allows you to observe your own responses, set healthy boundaries, and evaluate whether the connection is sustainable or emotionally healthy. You can maintain awareness of these psychological triggers without being controlled by them, choosing consciously how much energy to invest. By noticing how the chase itself manipulates emotional highs, you gain insight into why some avoidants continue to hold your attention and why you might feel compelled to chase them. This understanding helps you protect your emotional well-being while engaging with relationships in a thoughtful and intentional way. Reason 5. Some avoidants create a subtle sense that you are needed, wanted, or partially responsible for their engagement. This doesn't mean they explicitly ask for it, or that they consciously manipulate you. It's often unintentional. Small gestures of attention, brief messages, a fleeting smile, or moments of connection can feel disproportionately significant. Your brain interprets these intermittent signals as evidence that your effort matters, that your presence influences their emotional state, and that by trying a little harder, you might earn more attention, more closeness, or more affection. This dynamic triggers a natural psychological response. Humans are wired to notice patterns of reward and reinforcement, even when they are inconsistent. The avoidant's small acknowledgements function as intermittent reinforcement. You begin to focus on the moments of engagement and unconsciously discount the periods of withdrawal or emotional distance. Over time, this cycle conditions you to invest more effort and attention, hoping for larger or more consistent responses. Because some avoidants engage only partially, you may feel as if your involvement is essential for the relationship to work. You might interpret their occasional warmth as a sign that progress is possible, even when the overall emotional exchange is unbalanced. This keeps you engaged and emotionally invested because your attachment system is responding to the subtle cues of connection. Even if logically you know that the avoidant is not fully reciprocating, the intermittent signals create hope and emotional tension that are hard to ignore. This sense of responsibility can also make you hyper-aware of their moods, behaviors, and reactions. You start monitoring small changes in their attention, overanalyzing interactions, and trying to anticipate what they need. The effort feels natural because you genuinely care, but it is amplified by the avoidant's intermittent responsiveness. Even minimal recognition from them can feel like a significant emotional event, reinforcing the cycle of attachment. Over time, this pattern can lead to emotional fatigue if you are not conscious of it. Understanding that some avoidants trigger feelings of responsibility, need, or significance helps you gain clarity. You can recognize why you feel compelled to try harder, and why small gestures from them hold disproportionate weight in your mind. Awareness allows you to maintain boundaries, regulate your own emotions, and prevent overinvestment in someone who is not fully capable of reciprocating your attachment. By noticing this dynamic, you learn to distinguish between genuine engagement and emotional scarcity. You understand that your energy should not be entirely dependent on their intermittent attention. Recognizing the pattern gives you the ability to approach the connection with awareness, protecting your emotional well-being while still engaging meaningfully when interaction occurs. This awareness helps you see that your feelings of responsibility or significance are responses to the avoidance behavior, not reflections of your own inadequacy. Understanding this allows you to engage in relationships consciously, reduce unnecessary emotional strain, and maintain balance even when some avoidants cannot fully reciprocate your love or attention. Understanding why you find yourself loving some avoidants who can't fully love you back is one of the most important steps in breaking the cycle of unbalanced attachment. When you see the patterns clearly, you gain insight into how your emotions are being pulled and why you might feel compelled to invest more than is returned. This awareness doesn't mean blaming yourself or the avoidant, it simply helps you recognize the dynamics that have been influencing your feelings and behavior. By identifying these patterns, you are better equipped to make conscious choices about how to engage and how much energy to invest. Awareness allows you to care without losing yourself. You can remain compassionate and empathetic toward the avoidant, while also protecting your own emotional well-being. You begin to understand that their limited capacity for reciprocation is not a reflection of your worth, but rather a reflection of their attachment style and emotional processing. By seeing this clearly, you are able to step back from the unconscious pull that keeps you overinvested, and instead engage in ways that are balanced and healthy for you. Setting emotional boundaries becomes easier when you understand these patterns. You can communicate your needs and limits without feeling guilty, and you can recognize when the relationship is asking more from you than it is giving in return. This doesn't mean withdrawing entirely or closing your heart, it means creating space for yourself to maintain stability and clarity. Boundaries allow you to participate in the connection consciously, rather than being swept along by the highs and lows created by intermittent engagement. Focusing on connections that are mutual becomes more natural. When you are aware of the avoidance tendencies and your own responses, you can prioritize relationships where emotional effort and care are reciprocated. This doesn't just protect your energy, it also helps you build relationships that feel genuinely fulfilling, rather than exhausting or one-sided. You learn to recognize which interactions are sustainable, and which ones are likely to create ongoing emotional tension. Finally, understanding this dynamic is about protection and empowerment, not fault. You are not failing for caring deeply, and the avoidant is not inherently wrong for their limitations. Recognizing the patterns gives you a sense of control over your own emotional life, allowing you to respond thoughtfully rather than react automatically. You can approach the connection with clarity, balance, and intentionality, and you can choose to invest in ways that feel safe, healthy, and rewarding. Comment your thoughts below and subscribe for more insights into relationships, attachment, and emotional psychology. By applying this awareness, you can navigate connections with avoidance more effectively, reduce emotional strain, and cultivate interactions that feel genuinely supportive and meaningful.